Hey, what's going on, everybody? Alright, so I had a few requests to run through this animation here that I did a while back on one of my videos. I believe it was, I'm not sure which video it was, but either way, in the video, people saw this and they were interested in how I did it. So I wanted to run through that really quick. This involves basically just layers and the timeline. So before I get into that, I want to show you a really simple thing and just mention one caveat here that you might run into. So if you want to do something very simple, such as opening a lid on a box, which I've set this up, so you might record a layer and do something like that, right? And you're just sliding it in one direction, and that's fine. So when you do this layer now, it's gonna be fine. But say, like, I'm gonna undo that now. Say you want to rotate the box open, like it actually is opening like this. Well, you would assume, maybe coming into this new, that you could do the same thing. Record a layer, grab this on the proper axis, and rotate it open. And then, now that that's recorded, go back, and you're gonna see you get some really weirdness. That's because it's a non-linear deformation, and it doesn't understand. All it understands is value 1 and value 0. So layer on, layer off. It doesn't know how the vertex got to where they got, and essentially. So this isn't like rigging something and animating it and then, playing that back. But what you can do if you want to do something simple like this is, instead of recording a layer just flat out like this, I'm going to step back and we'll reposition that gizmo there. And I'm going to hit record deformation animation, okay? Once I hit that, I'm going to do this as smoothly as possible because it's going to record everything. Like if I do, you'll see, because I'm going to kind of do it jerky on purpose. I'm going to go back and forth a bit. Okay, and now I'm going to unrecord that, and let's save this as box lid animation. Looks like I've got a couple in there. 3. Okay. Now, so it's gonna close, and that's saved out. So I'm gonna hit import MDD data, and let's go to box lid animation 3. And now you'll see I have a layer here that does nothing. Okay, so for an MDD layer to work, you need at least one keyframe, or at least, I'm pretty new to animating in ZBrush, to be honest, guys, but from the research I've done, this is what the conclusion I've come to. You need a keyframe here, okay? And that's a camera keyframe. As soon as you touch the background here and you put a keyframe, you'll notice this says camera. If you touch this layer, it says undefined. That's because you're now working with keyframes for undefined on the timeline, okay? So I'm gonna click here, and you'll see it says layer 00 MDD layer. If I would have renamed this first, it probably would say that. So now, instead of now I'm going to run through this, and you'll see, since the layer is at value 1, it's doing exactly what I did. See how it's jerking even. So that's the extent I know that you can export MDDs and do all kinds of crazy stuff with them. This is just a way around it, guys, if you want to. I just wanted to show quickly, how you can get a simple rotation animation. And to top that off, you can, even though this isn't going to stay, like if you say undo this back or turn the layer off, and once you run through this timeline, guys, it's going to snap back to where it was. All right. So to remove a keyframe, it's Control and hold, and then drag it off, and then just click. And now this isn't going to do anything and you could just delete the layer. So this all applies to the more complicated animation that I did earlier. Not necessarily the MDD thing. I just wanted to show you guys how you can actually rotate an entire thing, because with layers and rotation and things that aren't moving in a linear path, it can get very weird. In the animation I did, I wanted it weird anyway. I'm just pulling a bunch of spheres together, so I'm going to go through that now. So I will check mark the video here, and I'm going to start putting chapters in my video so it's a little bit easier for you all. I hope that that helps. But so let's move to back to this and go through this animation. So the original one that I had up was this right here, and this is a lot of polygons, and it actually, I just wanted to see if I could do it, honestly, because, you know, it's morphing into her face, which is actually this one. And the arms were just something I was messing around with. Just kind of ignore that. I know it's weird looking, but I wanted to have some magic or something going through her hands there, like she was, you know, summoning a fireball or something. But I know these arms are just off of another model, guys, and they're unfinished, so just ignore that. But yeah, this involves a few cool tricks that you might pick up that aren't really related to this. I used some of the dynamics tab to do this, and I used morph targets, layers. So let's get into it. I'm just going to step through it again. So I want you guys to watch the layer menu over here as I run through. So I had this saved already, and I'm going to click these so you can see what kind of keyframes I had for each layer. So that's the first, that, like, all these are untitled, and I'm sorry for that, but that's just because I wanted to run through this quick. But this is the first layer keyframes. You'll notice I have one here and I have one there at the very end. And for this one, you'll notice there's quite a few more. The reason for that is I was just, you know, adjusting things. So, and then, so once you click multiple layers, guys, like I've noticed when I'm working with this, so if I click layer 1 and then I click layer 2 and then layer 3, it's like, so now that I can see layer 3's keyframes, I can also see the previous layer where its keyframes were as this little, actually let me pull the magnet, see this little shallow sort of semi transparent keyframe. So that's showing you where that is. And that's really helpful, actually, because, you know, sometimes you want them in the exact same spot or a little bit before or a little after, depending on what you're trying to do. And the reason I had a lot of these keyframes, guys, is because I was kind of trying to pull these in. Like, if I wanted to just morph them in one fell swoop, you know, this would look a lot more simple. But I wanted it to kind of morph into her face and then, like, act like, I was thinking Terminator 2, you know, the liquid metal guy, when I did this. So it's very pinched at this particular point, but that's all right, because when you actually play the animation, which, by the way, guys, if you want to play what is on your timeline, you hold shift and you click here. Oh, I'm glad that I did that, because when you go to play an animation in ZBrush, it's going to require that you have at least 2 keyframes in your camera. Okay? So if you don't want the camera to move at all, set it somewhere that looks good, I guess. And we'll remove that keyframe. I think I accidentally put that there a second ago. So we'll just set one here and one here. And that means, okay, there's 2 keyframes in the camera now. If I wanted to, I could have rotated it or something, and now when the animation played, it would have rotated with it. But since I didn't, it's just going to keep it still, because I don't need it to rotate right now. So now if you shift click, you'll see it's going to play through here. And you can see what the layers are doing over here, guys, if you watch. So there was a lot of back and forth, but that's just because I was trying to, you know, some of these are the last 2 layers are collar, so don't pay much attention to those. the main ones are the first 4. And then finally, bam, back to the end there, and it just looped over again. So if you actually wanted to record and export that, you can do so under movie, and there's all these settings under modifier. I can definitely go over some of these if you would want to do that, but generally what I would do is I go to large movie size. I do the document only. That makes it so that it only captures, and we'll do it real quick. We might as well just do it real quick. That makes it so it's only going to capture within the gray and not all the windows. So if you want to record and have the windows in there, you might want to do the full window. Also, so the playback FPS, and you can hold control over stuff, guys, and it'll tell you in ZBrush what it's gonna do. So this says determines how quickly the movie will play back. If it is equal to the recording FPS, the movie will play at the speed it was recorded at. If it's double, it's gonna play at double speed. So basically, right now, whatever I'm recording is gonna play at double speed. So if I want this to play in real time, guys, I want to come down here. Say I want like a 12-second animation. Let's go to duration. Okay, this is under timeline duration. We'll just change this to 12. And that's going to automatically just, if you look here, that says 12 seconds now. So if I record this, it's actually going to, right now, the way the FPS, what I like to do is set the recording or the playback to 60. Or let's see. Yep, 60 and 60s. Because if they're well, I don't know why I just did that. Okay, let's try that. So if the recording FPS, let's see. If this is double the recording FPS, maybe, yeah, so you want them the same if you want them to play real time, like what it's actually recording. And we'll test that real quick because I'm 95% sure about what I'm saying there. All right, so let's just actually do that. So like I said, guys, to play the animation, okay, it'd be shift and click, and this is just showing you, this isn't actually recording anything. If you want to record this, you hold control shift and click, and then it's going to actually record it. Or you can hit record up here, and I'll just show you real quick what happens. So if I want to manually control what you're seeing, like maybe I want to go back and go forward and then back and then forward and then back and then forward, and it's going to do that very quickly like I just did. And then I'm going to hit pause. Now I can play movie. It's going to show me what I have so far. You're going to see it go forward and back like I did there, and it was very quick. So that's not really what we want. So if you hit delete, that'll delete what's been recording, and nothing has been exported. It's just getting rid of, I don't want to save before deleting. So that doesn't remove anything from the timeline, guys. That's just what I had recorded. So if you hold control and shift and click here, it's going to start playing, and you'll see in the top left, it's saying frames. It's giving you how many frames have been recorded, and it's going to run through the whole animation. In this case, a bit slower in some parts than others, and I did that on purpose because I wanted it to, actually 12 seconds is probably a bit long for this because, well, actually, I think when you record it, it's going to move, it's probably going to move a little bit faster when because it goes slower to actually record it, especially when you have it at 60, because it's a good amount of frames. So, now that that's done, it's at 1198, which is fine. So let's go to movie and play that. And you'll see it automatically recorded, and it's playing back exactly how I have it set. And now you could hit export, and there's a fade out window and all that, and you can put custom text and stuff in here. You would go to export movie here, and then you could if you hit this little H, you can export it at, it means export highest quality. I haven't really tested to see how much quality difference there is, so anyways, that's the basics of the timeline and how to export something once you have it set up. But I really wanted to run you guys also. I'll make another checkpoint in the video here, and mark it in the description so that you can jump to this part where I'm actually going to run through now how I got where I got with each one of these layers. So let's do that. Let's, you know what? I'm going to obliterate all these. I'm just going to, actually not all of them, because I'm going to use a little trick to, okay. So this is what I started with, okay? And that's where I'm going to bake all these layers, and we're just going to start fresh. No layers. All right, and I want to turn poly paint off because that black color happens when you're working with layers sometimes, guys, and it's annoying, so I just rolled with it and painted over it, to be honest. So we're going to go with poly paint off. I don't want any poly paint. Okay, so ignore all the other subtools I have here, guys. I'm actually even going to turn the body, I'm going to turn everything off except for the layers, the spheres that I'm working on for now. Okay, so first things first, I needed to, to set this up, I had her head visible, and I appended a sphere, Z-remeshed it, so that they were all decently placed, you know, and you can get into that. That could be a whole nother section. I just kind of placed some spheres all around her head, okay? And I polygrouped them so I could isolate them easily. But what I learned while I was doing this is another cool little trick here. So instead of using, if I come in here with the transpose, because I want to expand these outward, all right? So if you're just using regular transpose and you come in here and set this to the middle, which if you want to know how to do that, guys, it would be, I have it hotkeyed because I use it so much. Like maybe I go to a subtool and my gizmo will be over here, right? I want it to be in the center. Well, I just hotkeyed it to Control C. So that's what I'm doing, guys. But if you want to know where that is so that you can hotkey it yourself, it would be under, let's see. Where is it? Not deformation. Where's the gizmo? I think it's under masking. Go to unmasked mesh. Yeah, here it is. Go to unmasked mesh. Go to unmasked center. That's what that's doing. And if you want to reorient your mesh, hold Alt, guys, because what's going to happen if you don't hold Alt? See, it's going to move with it. So anytime I move my gizmo and I want to set the rotation at something different, I hold Alt. That unlocks it. Alternatively, you can just click that and move it around and then relock it if you want. Either way, whenever I'm clicking this reset orientation button here, the little backwards arrow, I hold Alt, because otherwise it does that and it's going to move it with it. Anyways, so with the regular gizmo, if I were to do that, it's going to just you know, increase the scale of this. I don't want that. So I was trying to figure out, okay, how can, like, so the first time I did this, I went in here and I like isolated this and I was like, all right, let's move these apart. I was like, there has to be a better way than, you know, like isolating these and literally solo mode masking this one and then like coming over here. Like that's what I did the first time I did this. Like that would be one way to do it. But I was like, okay, I don't need this to be perfect, so let's go to the cloth transpose, and that is for me BTC, okay? And what this means is the dynamic, it's going to be using a dynamics tab now. So by default, you'll see already we're getting a pretty cool result, and then if you bring it back in, it's starting to wrinkle it like cloth, which I use some of that in the actual animation. But if you set the if you want them to actually stay more how they are, so what we're going to do, and this was part of the whole thing, guys, I want to store a morph target here. I want to store a morph target where they are before I do anything, because that's part of the whole how I set the layers up. So now I am going to, now that the morph target's set, actually I'm going to raise these up a subdivision level before I set the morph target, because to grab all the detail, well, we can do that later. That's fine. I'll leave them how they are right now. Well, maybe one. Maybe one. So let's go up one. Oh, it must already have some subdivisions. I'm glad I checked. Okay, yeah, it does. Oh, it has too many right now. Yeah, so let's go up to 80,000. Delete higher, delete lower. And let's restore that morph target. All right. So dynamics, let's set the firmness up to 6. That's going to make it so that they hold their shape more, okay, when I'm running this. So now when I expand these, it might be a little, since I up the, you know what, I can actually drop the subdivs down. So let's reconstruct and restore that morph target at the highest level. You always want to store the morph target at the highest subdivision level you have, guys. Just because if you don't, it will only work on the lower subdivision level, and then what's the point in having it, really? Anyways, what I was saying, I'm going to go back down now that I have it stored. That way it's not trying to simulate so many polygons. And we're going to move it out. And you can see, I mean, this is an awesome way to get something and just spread it out if you want. It's not like, as opposed to scaling it up like regular transpose would do, it just kind of pushes them apart. So that was step 1. Okay, and since I have a morph target stored where they used to be, that's step 2. So we're going to go to our morph brush. And let's see here. Now, this is where the layers are going to come in. So I am going to record, actually, let me see something. Yeah, so all the layers and keyframes I had stored on these before, they've been obliterated. They're gone. But you can see it snapped the camera. And that's another thing you can do with the timeline, guys, is use it to snap, you know, you can store different, like you can set it here, store a keyframe, and then when you, for instance, if you set a keyframe there, it's going to do that, but you could just, you know, you can go set to a, and since I have another one here, it's rotating back. So let me remove that, but you can use these and then hit left and right on your, for instance, if I want here and then I want here, and then you can just hop between them with your left and right arrow keys. Really useful. I had to mention that, sorry. So let's remove those. Back to the animation. All right, so I'm going to now record a layer. And we're actually going to need to record it at the highest subdivision, and that's why I stored the morph target at the highest subdivision. So you'll see what happens is it's going to start trying to move these back into place as I'm running the morph over it, okay? Like so. And that's pretty cool in itself, because remember, like I said, it's the layer, it doesn't know how they got there, it just remembers 0 and 1. So if I run this layer back, it's not all that cool looking. So that's where the adjustment layers come in, or the extra layers. So this was just to give me a place where I can come back to them all nice. And, you know, so if this layer is on and set to 1, then they are close. If it's not, so we're going to work with it like this for now. And just remember, we'll name layer 1, you know, position 2 or something like that, just to let ourselves know that layer 1 is moving the orb's position. Okay, so now I'm going to record another layer. And before I run this one, I'm going to try to quickly mask these a bit. So let's just kind of see where these are and turn X symmetry on and mask them a bit according to where they are. I'm just going to barely tap. I was a little more careful when I ran through this, you know, doing it before, but for the purposes of the show, this should be fine. I just want to mask the basically the outside of these. So let's see if I got, let's sharpen the mask one time. All right, now let's try to pull the, now remember, this layer is still recording. And sometimes when you mask things and you're recording a layer, it'll record that. So just be aware of that. So let's drop down a subdivision level. You can drop down in subdivision levels while you're recording. It's fine. That way we're, okay, so it's still pulling some of those masked areas. Let me sharpen the mask a bit more and see if that helps. Okay, so it looks like I missed masking on like maybe these. Sharpen that, or let's mask those a bit and see if any more. Yeah, I missed masking a couple of these, so let me finish that. Let's get that one, and this one, and this one. That might be all of them. Nope, still one more. Okay, and these are masked. They're just not, the mask isn't strong enough to hold it. And there's two at the top still, right there. That stronger. I'm gonna sharpen it a bit more. Okay, so to sharpen the mask, guys, it's control. You control Alt click, and to blur it back out, it's control click. So you can blur and then resharpen and blur and resharpen your mask if you would like. So now you can see it's holding it in place, but the firmness is up so high, it's trying to hold it a bit too hard. So I'm going to turn the firmness way down, okay? And now we're going to kind of pull these in with the cloth transpose. This was kind of like step one with this. You could use anything really, and some of these, like on the original one, if you wanted, I just kind of snake hooked them in, or rather cloth hook, BCK, and I kind of did them one at a time and kind of, you know, brought them in like this. And that actually looks pretty cool, so we can do a couple of them like that just to get a start. Anyways, and I'll just kind of pull the rest of them in a bit now, and you can see some of them overlapped on their self there. It's because I didn't have the mask in the really the right spot for that orb, but for purposes, I'm not going to fix it, guys. I just want to show you the basics of how I got this, because we can always adjust that later. So now that I have it here, just move these in a bit more with the move brush or something, so they're hitting like so. Since I have symmetry on, I'm just trying to make this quick as possible because I don't want to string this video out too long. Although it is a bit of a process that requires a little bit more explanation than most stuff. So let me unmask that and smooth these out and kind of get that. Ugh, that's pretty nasty. Let's uninvert that. Yeah, let's fix that. Mask this side and pull these in like that. Okay. Alright, good enough. Good enough for now. Now I'm gonna step back up to my other subdivision. You can see the layers came back on and it's still recording. And I'm just gonna show you what that layer looks like now. So if you go negative, it's gonna invert that, guys. Like, that's not what you want. So anyways, so this is our first layer. So say now I'm gonna add an adjustment layer, meaning I'm gonna record a new layer while this layer is visible, because I want to adjust what this is doing now. All right, so since these have a morph target, it's very easy to pull these in now. So I can just kind of tap. And this was the whole point of storing that morph target, guys, because this is gonna, you know, kind of, and this is another cool thing. Since this does have a morph target, I want to show you guys, you can make any brush respect this dynamics tab by going to brush, elasticity, and cranking your simulation iterations up. Okay, so now that this was recording the morph target brush, I just made it essentially cloth morph target. Because if you look at any cloth brush in ZBrush, these all have simulations turned to some value. I just turn it to 100 because why not? So that means this is going to now respect anything I have here. So if I put self collision on these, they're going to be aware of their self. So when I morph them back, check this out. You'll see, first of all, I'm getting some nice little cloth ripples in there. Okay. And I'm going to drop down a subdivision first and just kind of get them. This animation is going to look a bit different than the other one just because of the order I'm doing things in and stuff like that. So we're going to morph all. I know it looks kind of wild right now, guys. Just bear with me. So now we're going to hop up to the next subdivision and kind of fix all this. Now remember, the reason it's kind of like looking wild like this is because the morph brush is a cloth brush now. So as it's morphing back to its points, it's expanding and using cloth sim to be aware of itself. And if I turn the firmness up a little bit, it would probably actually go here. Let's turn solo mode on so we can see the insides, because it's probably wanting to need to hit some of the insides here to pull the inside in more. Yeah, there we go. And then don't be afraid to use the smooth brush. Kind of get these looking however you want, and I'm gonna pull those in some more there. And it's kind of fighting itself, guys, because the morph target, you know, I've got it set as a cloth brush. And then once that, so now let's stop this layer here, okay? So now we have 2 layers that we're working with. Now I want to point out that, you know, this layer and this layer are not connected. So you got to be careful because it's an adjustment layer. For instance, if I turn this layer off now, this layer at 1 is going to look so wrong because it was adjusting the vertex points once, you know, they were all like this. You want this layer on, at least on. Okay. So I'm going to add another adjustment layer, and that's assuming that's going to be adjusting it now once it's in this position. Okay, and this is going to be the final layer for the demonstration. So I'm going to dynamics, actually brush. I want to turn my morph brush. Basically, I don't want to have it really respect the simulation much anymore. So it's not respecting dynamics anymore. And now I'm just going to kind of morph these in. Like run it all over them so that they go back to their original position here. So now what we have is 3 layers. Let's stop the recording. And let's run through all these really quick. So if I take that one to 0, you see it goes back to here. If I take that to 0, you see it goes back to here. And if I take this to 0, you'll see it kind of... So now you can kind of see what I did, guys, to do the animation. So now it's just a matter of bringing the timeline down and keyframing these, or just dropping frames. So what you do is you want to have this layer selected. Remember, if you select the camera, it's going to pop back over here, and if you put a frame in, you're messing with the camera. You're not messing with the layer. So you want to leave get a camera at a good angle. Let's say like a 2/3 angle, or maybe a little less than that, maybe like this. And let's just get the layer where we want it for the first keyframe. So say I want it to go from here to, not all the way. Maybe I don't want it to go all the way for the first keyframe, but I want it to happen really quick. So maybe in the first like half second. Maybe like right there. So now you'll see, once you put a keyframe in, guys, it's going to keyframe it whatever that value was. Oh, and I missed a step. So we want to start with this off you'll need to keyframe that as well. So at the start, you want to tell it, so where is this going to be at the start of the animation? 0. We want it at 0. So add a keyframe there. And now you'll see when I move this timeline, it's that layer. Well, let me unclick so you can see there. See what this layer is doing as I move from keyframe to keyframe now? It's doing that little bit. So now after this, where do I want it to be? Well, maybe I want it to be further in, but maybe I want it to take a lot longer to get further in on that layer. Okay. So let's go way into the timeline, about maybe like more than a half second, like a couple seconds, like maybe 3 seconds. So, or 430 is fine. So let's say, let's remove that actually, because I didn't have it at the right value. So let's say by 430, I want it all the way, or 380, 3 seconds and 3.8 seconds. So now when I move this, you're going to see it kind of quickly moves there, and now it's going to slow. Like if I play the animation, you'll see the difference in the speed. So it kind of slowed down. Like it was fast at first, and then it slowed down. And then it stopped because we don't have anything for the rest of the animation. We don't have anything keyed yet. So now here's where we're going to bring the second layer in. We're going to say, okay, well, obviously we want the second layer to start at 0. So we're, first of all, you click, you can click this layer, okay, to make sure you're on that layer. And then click up here and set, we're going to say, okay, we want you at 0 at the start. Where do I want this layer to kick in? So let's see what happens when we start moving this. Okay, it's bringing the ends inward. So like a rubber band effect, maybe after that first real fast, shortly after that, maybe I want that to start coming in. So we want that to be at 0 until that starts. So we're going to set this layer to 0 at the beginning and right here. Then I want it to kind of rubber band from 0 to like here. Very quickly. Boom, boom. See? So the first is still going, but I kind of rubber banded that. And maybe if you want it to go a little, if you want it to be a little less quick than that, you can. So that's kind of cool. And basically, I just kind of went back and forth with it and placed keyframes where I wanted things until I had it looking right. So, if you want it to rubber band again, you would need to set what it is at this value again down here. But, that's just practice with the keyframes, guys, and learning it. I just want to show you the basics of how to set this up. So, I'm going to kind of speed this along because it's getting a little bit long, but basically what you want to end up with at the end here is all of these to a value of 1. So let's go ahead and at the end, let's say at the end of the animation, I want that at 1, I want that at 1, and I want this one at 1. This last layer. And that last layer, remember, was just me cleaning up the cloth. So I don't want that to happen until the very end. So we want this last layer to be at 0 until, because it's messing with it. It's messing with it. So let's set it to 0 until there. Or hold on, I messed up. Let's see. Let's set it to 0. Let's go 0 on here. And then click up here. Oh, I think I added it to the camera, and I did. Be careful about that, guys. Don't adjust your camera when you're adding these. So 0, click up here. All right, now that frame is, that layer, you'll see as I'm moving this animation along, that bottom layer is not going to do anything until I get near the very end of this timeline now. Right there. Boom. Now see, it's kind of moving inward. Now for the last 2 layers, guys, all I did was I took this head that I had, okay? And this is where it got pretty messy, but I'll show you what I did. I stored history on this subtool after I merged it all, like the eyeballs and everything were separate. I merged it all because I didn't want the projection to be grabbing anything. from the inside. So this is all, you know, the eyes and everything are merged together. I just stored history on the face, and I went to record the final layer here, and this would be, I wanted this not to be an adjustment layer, but I think it's gonna have to be in this case, because when I originally did this, actually no, it doesn't have to be. It can just be, yeah, that's fine. Because remember, our first layer is the position of the orb. So, but let's see what happens. I'm gonna try something different. All right. So normally I would have done that the other way, had this when it was on them spread out. So I was just working, because I don't want this to be, okay, and there that glitch just happened where everything turns black, and I don't want that. So yeah, I undid. All right, so with this last layer, I am going to not have any layers visible, okay? So that means it's not adjusting the layers. It's a layer of its own, and I want it to be like that because it's doing the thing. All right, well that's fine. What we'll do is just fill color. Well, that's not, I'm gonna have to manually polypaint. I don't know why it does that sometimes, guys. When you're working with layers and it does that, see, it's turning poly. Maybe I can just turn, no, because it's going to, let me go back before I created this last layer, actually, and see if I can get that to not happen. This is such a pain. Okay. So, good. Alright. So, all these are, and we will just make it an adjustment to these, actually. So, let's hit record now. And since I have the history stored, good, it didn't turn black. Since I have the history stored, what I did, guys, was I came, and while that was recording, I'm going to go down a subdivision level, and I'm going to go to subtool, project, and project history. And for the first one, I'm going to, this is where it got really messy with this, and I had to mess with it a bit, but I'm just going to show you basically what I did, because it's trying to pull so many different objects in. So I'm actually going to try to fix this really quick. What I think I'm going to do this time, and see if this helps, is eliminate. Let's do this. Let's do, so for this layer, we want a projection, and we want to get rid of all of them but one orb, I think. No, because that's going to mess with having it morph into the face in a bunch of different areas. So yeah, we're just going to have to deal with it. So let's project history. And we're just gonna have to do it the best we can, as quick as we can. Let me turn that projection distance down a bit. And you see it's not grabbing everything. One thing you can do is the project history brush, and it doesn't work with symmetry, so you got to be a little careful. But you can kind of manually project some of it and get a fix some of the areas that maybe it doesn't grab. Or, and let's project history again. Gonna smooth out with symmetry. And guys, this was a little tedious, so I just want to show you essentially what I did without all the cleanup. So I'm just gonna do a very rough projection here, because this is to get all the spheres to morph like this was a, I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do it. Like, you could mask and project and get a cleaner result, but I'm not gonna take the time to do this right now. So let's just project it again once at the highest subdivision level while we're still recording, to get it somewhat, and then kind of maybe fix some of the horribleness here, and then use the recall history. So this is also, if this is something to note, guys, and this is important, if you are on ZBrush 2023.2, I think, or above, the recall history brush, or the morph target brush, is stored with your history. So I'm not sure how that works when you're working on, when you have the history stored on a separate subtool. I know that if the separate subtool has the exact same topology, it will use that. But since the topology is totally different in this case, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of smoothing out and reprojecting with the brush here. This is take forever to clean up, guys. I'm gonna stop, make myself stop, so you got the basics of what I did. Let's just get the odds in there. And all right, so from a distance, not too bad, a few glitches, but whatever. I'm gonna stop recording that now. Okay, and now let's run through this animation again. So you'll see with that layer at 1, what happens when this goes back to the beginning, where these are all, well, they're not exactly at 0, but yeah, they are, because they're turned off. They're at 0. So what we want, guys, is we want to now set the keyframes for this layer. So we want this at 0 at the beginning, and if you leave it there, it's just gonna leave it at 0 the whole time. So when do we want that to kick in? Well, that's where I did a lot of back and forth, because I was like, okay, maybe it can kind of bring the faces in here for a moment, right? So I was like, let's kind of halfway morph it there. Then once it gets here, let's take it back to 0, put it there. So now you're getting this back and forth with the faces, like, wow. Because remember, I was thinking Terminator 2 Liquid Metal, the guy trying to like morph into different things, and it like wasn't quite there yet. So it's like, and then we'll have it at 0 here again, and then really quickly pop out another face here, you know, like, and then like kind of slowly go back to maybe this. So very slowly, the longer span between them, the slower it's gonna be. So it kind of, that's actually a little too long. So let me move that keyframe back. So yeah, it pops out, and then, oh, I must not have had that set right. Let's remove that one and put that there. Okay, yeah, there we go. So now it popped out and it's going back. And by the end, we want this at 1, because that's where the face is. So, but, you know, right before the end, maybe we don't want it all the way at 1. Maybe we want it at 0, actually, to look like, you know, some crazy orbs. So maybe 0, and then kind of quickly morph into 1 there at the end. So it's like trying to morph, and then it finally gets there. So let's play the animation, and then I'll wrap this video up. I just wanted to run through because people asked, and they were curious about how, ooh, what's going on here? So something is messing with that animation, like messing a bit, like it didn't look quite right. I have a keyframe somewhere that's throwing it off for a long time. Let's see, what are the layers doing? Yeah, we want that to go back to 0 way quicker here. So let's actually put one there. Yeah, that looks better. And then it popped out and it goes back. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's play that. And you can see it's kind of like, and then it gets very slow. And again, you could tweak this all day. I just wanted to get, and then very quick at the end there, guys. Like, you would want to probably do that a little slower. I'll just show you what it's doing manually at the end. Really quickly, just kind of whoop right into the face. So that's how I did it. And hopefully this helps, whether you're doing something simple with animating in ZBrush or just trying to make something breathe. You can do that. I haven't, again, like, I just try to do something crazy. I haven't really played with this a whole lot, but these are the basics of the timeline. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this video, and I hope this answers some questions for how I did that crazy animation. The whole idea for this was, by the way, to kind of have it morph in and then maybe use the same spheres to like create like a symbiote venom type creature or something. So I might do that eventually, but sculpting with all those spheres and keeping them separate is going to be a task. You know, I might want to work with a few less like objects there that are separated just to keep things a little bit more, or at some point in the animation you could, you know, shrink them all down and then just have one take over, I suppose. um which is what I was thinking about doing to avoid all that nastiness, because if you projected her face onto one sphere and just kept subdividing it up to about, you know, a million, you're gonna have a lot more cleaner detail. But anyways, until next time, I'm going down a morph target wormhole, guys, with this cloth stuff, the dynamics and the morph target. So be on the lookout for those. Take care.